Have you ever wondered who the fastest Pokemon out there is? Who comes to mind first? Arcanine? Garchomp? Maybe even Pikachu? Chances are, you're probably wrong. And this video will help you understand why and who the fastest Pokemon out there truly is. Now, there are several factors to consider in this discussion. The main two I'll be talking about are the Pokédex entries and the base stats. Base stats are the values that determine a Pokemon's growth rate for its 6 major stats, one of which is speed. Each base stat can range from 1 at the worst to 255 at the best. Simply put, higher number, better stat. Make sense? Alright, let's continue. Another factor in this discussion is the use of items, mainly items that give certain Pokemon more of an advantage. These items I'm mainly talking about are Mega Stones, but with one or two others thrown in the mix. Looking at you, Zacian. Because of this, I will only be considering base forms, which means even though Mega Beedrill has a base speed of 145, I'll only be considering the stats of normal Beedrill, which drops him down to a puny 75 base speed. So because we're going to take these items out, we're going to take out a few of these top 15 fastest Pokemon. So we will be taking out Mega Mewtwo Y, Mega Sceptile, Mega Beedrill, Crown Sword Zacian, Mega Aerodactyl, and Mega Alakazam. This leaves us with 9 Pokemon. We have Regieleki at 200 base speed, Deoxys speed at 180, and yes, I know, other Deoxys forms are fast too, but I don't think we need to discuss each and every one of them. Ninjask at 160, Pheromosa at 151, Calyrex Shadow Rider at 150, Electrode at 150, Excelgor 145, Zeraora at 143, and Dragapult at 142. And there's a weird amount of bug types that are fast, huh? I'm sure that won't come up later. Anyways, if we look purely at base speed, Regieleki wins by a landslide. However, as I stated previously, I'll be looking at Pokédex entries as well for a more full discussion, and because base speed really only applies for battling, which isn't all there is to Pokemon. Sorry, Ash. So let's get into this and start with some honorable mentions. These Pokemon are incredibly fast, but compared to others are pretty lacking. First off, we have Linoone. Yeah, remember him? Probably not, since he just kept Zigzagoon as an HM slave and never had to evolve him. Well, in fact, Linoone can actually be pretty quick. According to its Brilliant Diamond entry, among others, it can run in a straight line at 60 miles an hour. Not bad, huh? But let's compare that to Arcanine, where in his Pokemon Shield Dex entry can be seen running over 6,200 miles in a single day and night. After some quick maths, that equates to about 258 miles an hour. Take that, Linoone. But what's weird is Arcanine's base speed is 95 and Linoone's is 100. Make it make sense, Pokemon. Now, let's take a look at some of the Pokemon with high base speed and their Dex entries. I found that quite a few of them don't actually reference speed, oddly enough. One of which is our number one speed man himself, Regieleki. His shield entry states, its entire body is made up of a single organ that generates electrical energy. Regieleki is capable of creating all of Galar's electricity. So cool, he's a power source. Not really helpful in the speed conversation, huh? Let's move on to Calyrex Shadow Rider, whose shield entry says that by using its power to see all events from past and future, this Pokemon saved the creatures of a forest from a meteorite strike, which is sweet. It can see any time, but it doesn't really mean it's super quick, huh? Yeah. Alright, next. Excelgor, whose X entry states, having removed its heavy shell, it becomes very light and can fight with ninja-like movements, which is also pretty sick. But ninjas I don't think are even faster than a Linoone, so I'd say that knocks him out of contention for me, along with all the others I've just mentioned. Next, let's look at some Dex entries that reference speed, but not really anything with numerical data for us to use. For instance, Deoxys Speed's entry says it's a Pokemon that mutated from an extraterrestrial virus exposed to a laser beam. Its body is configured for superior agility and speed. Or Pheromosa, whose Sun entry states that it's one of the dangerous Ultra Beasts. It has been spotted running across the land at terrific speeds. And even Electrode, whose Scarlet entry mentions the more energy it charges up, the faster it gets. This also makes it more likely to explode. So, for all we know, these guys could all be the fastest Pokemon, but I'm going to make the educated assumption that they're not, and let's continue with some more that could potentially be. Now let's start this next group of Pokemon with Dragapult, where its Violet entry states the fastest Dragapult of the group is always surrounded by Dreepy that want to fly at sonic speed. Now I could be wrong here, but I think that's talking about Dragapult shooting Dreepy at sonic speeds, which I don't think I'm going to count in this situation, but even if it is Dragapult, sonic speeds, or the speed of sound, is 768 miles an hour, which is incredibly fast, but not compared to the rest of the Pokemon on this list. The next 3 Pokemon I'm going to mention are all actually faster than the speed of sound, which is pretty insane. They can all even reach Mach 2, which is twice the speed of sound, over 1,500 miles an hour. These 3 Pokemon would be Pidgeot, Dragonite, and Garchomp, And just a fun fact, despite being very close in speed, Dragonite's base speed is over 20 points lower than the other two, at 80, while Garchomp has 102 and Pidgeot lands at 101. In the Let's Go games, it explains that Pidgeot flies at Mach 2 speed, seeking prey. Its large talons are feared as wicked weapons. As for Dragonite, its Violet entry says it can fly in spite of its big and bulky physique. It circles the globe in just 16 hours, which equates to roughly 1,550 miles an hour. And lastly, Garchomp, whose Shining Pearl entry says it flies at the speed equal to a jet fighter plane. It never allows its prey to escape. And a jet fighter plane can reach up to 1,900 miles an hour. So, if you did guess Garchomp at the start, well done. You're almost correct. What? Almost? There are Pokemon faster than Mach 2? Yeah, of course there are. It's Pokemon. To me, there are two options left for the fastest Pokemon, with maybe a third I'll talk about now because I'm a little fuzzy on where to include it. And that would be Raikou. Its base speed is 115, but its Dex entry in Alpha Sapphire states, Raikou embodies the speed of lightning. And according to the definition of embody, it would mean that he is the speed of lightning. But more on that later. Let's jump to the next Pokemon real quick, and he may come as a surprise that he's so high up, and that would be Ninjask. Now, I had to do a lot of digging for this guy, so I hope you appreciate all this work. Ninjask not only has the third highest base speed in the game at 160, but his Omega Ruby Dex entry states that Ninjask moves at such a high speed that it cannot be seen, even while its crying can be clearly heard. For that reason, this Pokemon was long believed to be invisible. This means that Ninjask can move so fast that the naked eye cannot see it sometimes. After doing some digging, I found this post by Citizen Sentry on Comic Vine to explain a bit more about how fast you'd have to actually be to be invisible, because normally that means you have to go at the speed of light, which is insanely fast. But a bug can really go that fast? I don't really think so. The speed at which Ninjask would have to move, I think, is more of an optical illusion, but not really. The object is invisible if it moves faster than the eye or brain can process the images, and we only see things that move every 1/24th of a second or so. We don't really see the motion, we just see the illusion of movement if it moves. This is only a persistence of the previous images. If the object moves faster than 1/24th of a second, then it would be invisible to the human eye. Then I found an article by Vision Direct, and that states, in an experiment, Air Force pilots were able to recognize an image of a plane that was flashed on screen for as little as 1/220th of a second. With this in mind, we can imagine that the ball, or in this case, Ninjask, would have to be in front of you for at most 1/250th of a second for the brain to never pick it up. So to be inclusive with everybody, let's consider this number instead of the 1/24th of a second. Now they did this experiment talking about a soccer ball, and if you were sitting in the front row of a stadium, how fast would that have to be to become invisible? They say the average human field of view is about 200 degrees horizontally, but our binocular vision is about 120 degrees. This is the amount in front of you that both your right and left eye can see. And for this, we'll assume you're only really concentrating on a small area staring straight ahead. That means you would only be able to look at roughly 70 meters at any one time. So in order for something to be invisible, it would need to cross 70 meters in 1/250th of a second. That is 17,500 meters every second, or 38,146 miles an hour. Pretty insane. Now I totally understand why people think that Ninjask can go invisible whenever he wants to. So yeah, Ninjask can move at about 40,000 miles an hour. That is kinda nutty, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Remember Raikou, the embodiment of lightning? Well, he's not the only Pokemon who can claim that he's that fast. Hi, sorry to interrupt, but this is Future Jackson. I forgot to say what the speed of lightning actually is. It is 270,000 miles an hour. Alright, back to it. The only other Pokemon that I found who can claim that would be Zeraora. Now, you might not even know who Zeraora is. In fact, I didn't for the longest time. He just kind of appeared one day and I was very confused as to where he came from. But regardless, he's pretty sick, and I think he is the fastest Pokemon out of all of them. Zeraora's sword entry states it runs as fast as lightning strikes, shredding its opponents with its high voltage claws. Pretty violent, but pretty cool, huh? And this means that both Raikou and Zeraora are both canonically as fast as lightning. But since Zeraora's base speed is 143, 28 points higher than that of Raikou, I would have to consider him the fastest Pokemon out of all of them. But what do you think? Is there a Pokemon that I missed that also belongs on this list? Is there one that's faster than Zeraora? Let me know. And if you're still here, please like, comment, and consider subscribing. I appreciate it. Have a great one.